Today on Addicted to Gear, we're going to be trying to answer a pretty straightforward question. What do you prefer on your Les Paul? Pickguard or no pickguard? Stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I'm trying to answer a pretty simple, straightforward question. Should I install a pickguard on this Les Paul? I know that a lot of you out there are Les Paul owners and lovers, and for some reason there has been lots and lots of debate as to what looks better on a Les Paul, pickguard or commando without. I have to say that I've been carrying around the pickguard that came with this guitar in its case for probably 5 or 6 years now, and I just haven't had the opportunity to install it. So let's look at some of the reasons why you would even want to have a pickguard on your Les Paul. I mean, if we look at the history behind the guitar, Les Paul, the man that this model was actually designed for, his signature series, I guess you can call it, came with a really nice pickguard. And back in the day, that's the way it was designed, that's the way it was demanded, and that's the way it was created. So why should we even question that today? I mean, that's the way the guitar was meant to be. Let's look at some of the famous Les Pauls for a second, shall we? So one of the most famous Les Pauls that I think, off the top of my head I could mention is Greenie, which is basically owned right now by Kirk Hammett from Metallica, and this guitar has a lot of history behind it, and it definitely does not have a pickguard on it. Does it make it less desirable? I don't think so. It's probably one of the most famous Les Pauls that are floating out there right now and still in circulation. So that one is definitely a no. Second on the list for me is Jimmy Page, Mr. Jimmy Page, my all-time favorite Les Paul gunslinger, and he's been rocking a Les Paul with a pickguard for many, many years. And I think it would look odd to see Jimmy Page playing a Gibson Les Paul with no pickguard. I've just become so accustomed to seeing him playing that guitar with a pickguard. Another very famous Gibson player is Slash, and we can see that he's rocking his #1 Les Paul without a pickguard, and I think it looks great on him. He can definitely rock that look. Even Eric Clapton back in the day when he was playing a Gibson Les Paul before he switched over to the 335 and eventually the Strat had a Les Paul that had a pickguard on it. Then of course you have people like Gary Moore who kind of flip-flopped. He had some guitars with the pickguard, some guitars without. I don't think it made a difference in his tone because the man rocked both of them incredibly well. And of course Paul Kossoff, I would say the person that I think of whenever I think of that great Gibson sound, had a Gibson and it didn't have a pickguard. So he was very comfortable going commando and didn't seem to hinder him in any way. Then of course we have Mr. Billy Gibbons with his beautiful pearly gates, a wonderful, amazing looking vintage Les Paul that definitely rocks the pickguard, and I don't think anybody would say no to that guitar. And of course there's Mr. Joe Bonamassa. He's notorious for having such a great choice of gear, and whenever I see him playing a Les Paul, I rarely see it without a pickguard. So I'm not saying that just because one player over another happens to be rocking a guitar with a pickguard or without that you should do the same. It's a question of look and it's a question of functionality. Now originally the pickguard was put on a Les Paul to protect the guitar from being, nicked by the pick while you were strumming the guitar. Nobody likes to see a Les Paul with a bunch of scratches under it unless you're into the relic thing. But to be honest with you, the fact that the guitar has a carved top, I don't think that's really important. I mean, after all, I rarely, when playing a Les Paul without a pickguard, hit the top. It's not a big problem unless you're a really, really aggressive player. Now, one argument to why you may not want to put on a pickguard on these guitars is, you don't necessarily want to hide the flamey goodness of the top. If you have a beautiful top and it has a wonderful flame that you paid a lot of hard-earned money for, why would you want to cover half of it with an ugly plastic pickguard that costs, a couple of bucks? I don't know. I think maybe the flame would be way nicer than the pickguard. What do you guys think? So there's yet another aspect to why some people simply don't install the pickguards. It's not necessarily because they don't want them there. They just can't bring themselves to drill those 2 small holes and install it in their guitar because they feel like drilling holes in such a great guitar is like vandalism. And there was a period when Gibson would not necessarily install the pickguard on the guitar and just throw it in the case and leave it up to the purchaser to decide whether or not they wanted to go with or without, like in this case. I've been carrying around that pickguard in my case for years now, and I haven't actually gotten around to deciding whether or not I want it to be installed. But I agree with you. It's kind of hard to make the little holes there. It just seems like, do I really need a pickguard? Maybe not. So here's a little suggestion. Maybe Gibson, with all the creative people working for them, can come out with a better way to have the pickguard installed on their guitars. Maybe invent a way where you can simply pop on the pickguard and pop it off without necessarily having to drill holes. Maybe magnets might be the solution or something like that. But I totally understand why people might not want to be drilling holes. I'm actually going to go out on the limb and say there might even be a small percentage of you out there that think that having the pickguard on the guitar might actually suck a little bit of tone. Maybe cut off a little bit of the low end, or maybe, reduce the highs somewhat. I don't know. I've heard crazier things. So I also feel that if you're not exclusively a Les Paul player and you enjoy other type of guitars like the PRS typically don't come with a pickguard. So perhaps because of that, because you're enjoying both a Les Paul style guitar and a PRS style guitar, you've been exposed to both worlds, and maybe not having a pickguard on your guitar is not the end of the world. So for me, I think it really boils down to a fashion statement, what you prefer. Not all of us prefer the same thing, Some of us might like to have the option of having one with, one without. Others might feel like the guitar looks best with a pickguard if it has binding around the top. Maybe guitars that don't have a binding option on them maybe look best without the pickguard. I know there's definitely a lot of you guys that think that the gold top Les Pauls definitely look better with a pickguard as opposed to without. Either way, I need your help to decide whether or not I should stay commando or perhaps bite the bullet and install the pickguard on this guitar. I need your help. I can't decide. I really want to know what your opinion is on this, guys. With or without, please leave your comments below. It's an easy question, yes or no answer, so there shouldn't be too much debate. I will definitely look at all of the comments and take inventory of that, and then use that to make my decision. You might be the one that convinces Tony to put a pickguard on this guitar after so many years. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of Addicted to Gear. This video was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll get some nice feedback from you guys. I also want to invite you guys to tune into my live Sunday streams, which happen every Sunday right here on Addicted to Gear at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. There's a great bunch of people there that are addicted to gear just like you. So I'm sure you will enjoy the conversations that we have during that 1 hour to 2 hour time slot on a regular weekly basis. Don't miss it. And if you haven't already subscribed, hit the little bell icon so that you'll be notified whenever we post other great videos. See you guys soon.